Okay, has anyone heard from Mr. John?
No, sir. No, sir, I haven't. I don't know if he got a little warm yesterday. But he had to go yesterday, so he had checked the sugar. I know he ate a little bit and checked the sugar, and then he came out and worked a little bit with us, and then he may have got hot, because it was hot up there.
All right, now next Sunday Mitchell will be preaching. And you'll want to be here for that. And today we'll wind up the 15th chapter of Luke, and we finally got the prodigal son home. So let's just turn to Luke 15. The first verse. Then drew near unto him all the publicans and the sinners for to hear him. And the Pharisees and scribes murmured, saying, This man receiveth sinners, and eateth with them. And he spake unto them a parable. And the rest of the chapter is one long parable. Now the setting of it is, you've got religious leaders who murmured because he received publicans and sinners, and eateth with them. Now, you've got really 4 parables in one. You've got, number 1, the parable of the lost sheep. He was lost because of ignorance. He refused to mind the shepherd. And I want you to think back. Through the years, I've seen trained horses. I've seen trained dogs. I've seen trained monkeys. I've even seen a trained pig. A guy I used to be in the mobile home business with, he bought him a Corvette, and he had a pig. And that pig got up to probably 150 pounds. He'd ride in the seat over there, and they'd let the back, and they'd go through town, that pig sitting up in the seat. His wife would have a fit. And I can understand why. That pig thought he owned that house. I have never seen a trained sheep. And I'm not even sure you can train a cat. Some animals are harder to train than others are. The lost sheep wanders off on his own, stubbornly, deciding he'll eat where he wants, he'll go where he wants, he'll do what he wants, and he winds up in trouble, doesn't he? Lost, and can't find his way back home. So the first one was lost because of ignorance. The second, the coin, was lost because of the neglect of others. No one cared for it like it should. Someone got careless and let it slip from their grasp, and it was lost. David said, Who careth for my soul? There are thousands who are lost because of the neglect of others. No one cares enough about them to pray for them, to love them, and to share the gospel with them. The third one, the prodigal son, was lost because of just plain rebellion and disobedience on his part. So all 3 wound up the same results. They were lost. Now we've looked at the prodigal son, and he's not too nice of a character, it didn't seem like, did he? Number 1, he came to his father while his father was still living and said, I want what's coming to me. I wish you were dead, old man. That's essentially what he was saying. Because the father at his death would have given it to them anyway. But he couldn't wait till then. He wanted his now. Which is saying, I wish you'd hurry up and die. Not too nice, is it? I'm tired of living here. I'm tired of you telling me what I can and cannot do. I'm tired of working in that field out there. I'm tired. I'm going to get me a job. What he did, he lived off of Daddy's money till Daddy's money ran out, and then he started slopping hogs. You know, if you know so much at 18, 19 years old, then why aren't you out there working, making a fortune already? It amazes me how people get 15, 16, and something in their mind just clicks. They change. Their mom and daddy become stupid. They're just old-fashioned fogies. And then time you hit 30, you begin to get a little sense. And by the time you get 40, hopefully you recovered from that stupidity you had. And by the time you get 50, maybe you'll get right with God. Did you hear about on the news this week about the snake that fell on the woman in Texas? She's out in the yard and this snake falls and lands on her shoulder. And she's trying to jerk the snake away, and this hawk comes down and he just scratches her. Oh, it was his snake. He had the snake, and he dropped the snake, and he's trying to get his snake back. And the woman wound up in the hospital. Not from a snake bite, but from a hawk clawing her. I tell you, if that happened to me, I'd probably wound up in Milledgeville. Preacher, you're not in that snake? No, I'm not in that snake handling. Listen, if the Lord wants me to handle a snake, then the Lord will put that snake right there. I'm not going over there and prove to you I've got faith because I can handle a snake. That's tempting God. And anyway, I thought that was rather amazing. It's bad enough for a snake to fall on you, and it's worse for a hawk to claw you all up trying to get his snake back. That sounds about like my luck. So, anyway, the prodigal got home. And let's look now down at verse number 25. The rest of this parable is less known than the first two parts. Now his elder son was in the field, and he came and drew near to the house and heard music and dancing. And here's the first thing somebody's going to say. They had dancing in the Bible, preacher. Let me tell you something, honey. They didn't have to choreograph it. They didn't have to rehearse it like these churches. You know, they amaze me. Our dance and praise ministry is rehearsing a song for Sunday, and we're working out a dance routine. Baloney. That's of the flesh. The dancing here was shouting and praising. And when God puts it in you, you don't have to rehearse it. That's like I got the Spirit and I spoke in tongues. And we'll help you to learn to speak in tongues. Well, let me ask you something. Why would you need to help somebody learn to speak in tongues if it's a gift from the Spirit? Wow. It's quiet, doesn't it? Did you know there were no tongues at Pentecost? You read that chapter closely. Every language that was spoken was a language that someone understood. Now, if those tongues are still active today, as some claim they are, then why do people have to study foreign languages to go to the foreign mission field? Nobody at Pentecost studied a foreign language, but they spoke in different languages. And every word was understood. It wasn't jabbering. So they was dancing. Now, so you know, you need to look at the context of something when you start trying to justify something by the Bible. And the dancing here it was talking about was far different than dancing today. Verse number 26. And he called one of the servants and asked him what these things meant. Why is there music? Why is there dancing? And he said unto him, this is talking about the servant said to the elder son, Thy brother is come, and thy father hath killed the fatted calf, because he received him safe and sound. Ah, the marvel of the Holy Spirit. He received him not only safe, but he received him sound. Remember, it said back earlier, when he came to himself, lost sinners are not themselves. They are mentally affected by sin. And this old boy is now sound. He's not only safe, but sound in his right mind. He received him safe and sound. Aren't you thankful that God just puts those little things in there like that to help you understand the Word? No lost sinner is mentally well. Because no man with reasonable intelligence will trade 60, 70, or even 80 years of living here on this earth for eternity in hell, just to get to live like you want to now. Boy, that'd be the poorest trade you ever made. That'd be like trading a Cadillac for a Model T, wouldn't it? I'm going to zoop around town now, but I'm going to burn in hell forever. He was safe and sound in his right mind. Verse number 28. And he was angry. Who's angry? The elder brother's angry. And who's he angry with? He's angry with his father. He was angry and would not come in. Therefore came the father out and entreated or begged him. Now, so far, most people read this parable and think of this elder son as a good guy. He stayed home. He looked after his dad. He's not the one who went and said, I wish you were dead so I could have my inheritance. And incidentally, the elder son got far more inheritance than the younger son did. And if you go back to the first part of this parable, he divided his inheritance among them, the elder and the younger son. And he was very angry and would not come in. Therefore came his father out and entreated him. And he answered to his father. Now listen to what he said. Lo, these many years do I serve thee. Neither transgressed I at any time thy commandments, and yet thou never gavest me a kid, that I might make merry with my friends. But as soon as thy son, now notice he didn't say my brother, he said thy son was come, which hath devoured thy living with harlots, thou hast killed the fatted calf. And he said unto him, Son, thou art ever with me, and all that I have is thine. Now listen very carefully here. I'm not going to make the prodigal son out of saint. He was far from it. But there's some things about this prodigal son that have been neglected. When he said something, he did it. Now, when he said something, he did it. He's not like Baptists. It's got to where today people will tell you anything to shut you up and get you off the back and have no intention of doing it anyway. Some folks will still be sitting on that stump saying one day I'm going to get right with God. They're 80 years old now. How long is it going to take you to get right with God? When's that one day going to be? Today is the day of salvation. Don't procrastinate. We put off till tomorrow what should be done today, and one day there will be no tomorrow to do it in. The younger son said, I want what's mine now, and I'm leaving home. And he did. He left home. He said, I'm going to enjoy life. And he did. He wasted it as a whoremonger and a drunk and partying in the world. Then came the day when he said, I'm going home. And what did he do? He didn't lay down in the pig pen and talk about going home. He got up and went home. When he said something, he did it. Now notice that contrasted to the older brother. Go down to verse 29. Lo, these many years do I serve thee. Is he telling the truth? No. He's lying. Because when you go back up into verse 12, he divided unto them his living. You come down here to verse 29, and the elder son is saying, I serve you. You know, he was serving himself. The inheritance, he had already gotten his. And the labor he was doing was in his own behalf. But he's telling the father, I'm serving you. Now notice what he goes on to say. Neither transgresseth I at any time thy commandments. Now go up one verse above that. The father went and begged him to come in to the house. He turns around and says, I've never disobeyed you. The fool just got through doing it. The father begged him. Now whether he's that stupid or that ignorant or that filled with hate, I don't know. Or that big of a hypocrite. But he's like a lot of church members today. And there are a lot of churches like this elder son. I remember when we were up in the auditorium there and we had larger groups coming. I remember sometime people would come and join the church and somebody would say, well, I know what they used to do. They forgot what they used to do is a problem. And the only reason they're not doing it now, they're too old to do it. Listen, this elder son is self-righteous. And he is lying out his teeth. He can't see his own sin for seeing the anger of his brother and dad. Now this is a picture of what? This is a picture of the nation Israel and the scribes and the Pharisees. The Jewish nation did not want Gentiles to benefit on their inheritance. They wanted to keep Christ just for themselves and salvation just for themselves. They didn't want the doors open to whosoever will. The scribes and the Pharisees murmured, he receiveth sinners unto themselves, and he eats with them. Boy, I tell you, if that made your lost day, you'd have trouble going out to eat, wouldn't you? Could you imagine going to a buffet and sitting down and And here comes the scribe and Pharisee. Look who he's sitting beside of over there. Or what about eating that chicken? Or that shrimp? Oh, I saw him eating a forbidden fruit. You know, I was thinking last night, did you know that Eve ate her household out of lock, stock, and barrel? Talking about taking a wife. Boy, that woman ate them out of a home. One bite and they're gone. I just thought I'd throw it. That didn't cost you a penny. But it just struck me funny last night. People say today, and I said about that cat, she's going to eat me out of house and home. Eve did eat them out of house and home. She ate them out of paradise. And here this old boy is saying, I worked for you, Daddy, all these years when he was working for himself. I never once disobeyed you. He just got through disobeying the Father. The Father asked him to come in. He begged him to come in, and he would not. Then notice what he goes on to say, because it gets more ridiculous. You never gave me a kid that I might make merry with my friends. Well, why didn't he kill one of his own? The Father had already given him his inheritance. He didn't have to ask the Father. And incidentally, the younger son wasted not the father's inheritance, but his own. It was given to him by his father. It was his, and he wasted it. And this young man here is saying, you wouldn't even give me a kid that I might make merry with my friends. That's a lie, because nobody had to give him one. He could have took one of his own. What he's really saying is, why didn't my father throw a big feast for me like this? Do you know why? Because some of his friends wouldn't have liked the Father's house. See, down inside, he is as corrupt as the younger son ever was. He just didn't show it yet. Now go on and read the rest of it. And as soon as this thy son was come, which hath devoured thy living, that's a lie. It was his own money that the younger son spent. With harlots, thou hast killed for him the fatted calf. Now, verse number 31. And he, talking about the Father, said unto him, Son, thou art ever with me, and all that I have is thine. After he divided the inheritance, what the father had left would go to who? The eldest son. But that's not enough. This guy wants it all now. Verse 32. It is meet, meaning it's normal, that we should make merry and be glad. Now, what is a normality for the child of God? Here it is. For this thy brother was dead and is alive again, and was lost, and he's found. What should make the church glad above everything else? When sinners get saved. That should be our number one priority. Not did we jump 4 benches and land on our feet, or not did we fall out at the front and roll on the floor, or not that we spoke in 10 tongues that nobody understood, or not that we had this feeling, the quiver of the liver. I had a quiver in my liver and I thought it was the Lord. Remember that? Oh, I went to church today and I felt the Spirit. me tell you, yesterday afternoon, yesterday morning, I went up and sat in the auditorium for a little while, right by myself while Richard, Mitchell and them were cleaning up. And that's the first time I've been up there and just sat by myself since Ruby died. And I felt her presence, but it didn't make a quiver of the liver. You go up there and leave those lights off and just let the sun come through the windows, and it's kind of dark and weird looking in there. The old memories it brings back, doesn't it? Memories long ago of a house that was on a hill, and it was a guidepost for people on the sea of sin. And they could look to the tower, and there was hope. And there were people there who welcomed them, no matter what their past was or how bad they'd been. For most of us had been there ourselves. Now, that's the kind of church that God wants, not the church of the older brother. Good night. There's enough of those around. Well, you're not as spiritual as I am. You don't speak in tongues. You don't have the Holy Ghost. What they're saying is, and you don't realize it, is you're not saved. For if any man have not the Spirit of God, he's none of his. So you better wake up to what they're saying. Or they don't know themselves what they're talking about. For if you have it without speaking in tongues, then it's not necessary that all people speak in tongues, is it? And if it is necessary, and you don't speak in tongues and you don't have it, then they're lost as a goose. Listen, there's a great need today for the simple gospel, that whosoever will, let him come. And let him find mercy in Jesus Christ. And let him find love from the people of God. And let him be accepted as a part of the family of God. Now, let me ask you something. Who are you and I to turn away someone who God would welcome home? That's what this elder brother's doing, isn't it? That's your son. He's not my brother. I don't know where he was that stupid or that crazy or that backslidden or just that indifferent. But God deliver us from the church of the elder brother. May we never become like the elder brother was, but may we be loving and kind, like the father was who ran to meet the prodigal son. Yes, there's parts of that prodigal son that I respect more than I do the elder brother. When he said something, he did it. It might be wrong, but he did it. And the older I get, the more I respect people who, when they say something, they'll do it. They're few and far between today, aren't they? And let me tell you something. And with this, we're through. And I've said it. If I've said it one time, I've said it 100 times down here. Building character is hard. Building character is done by doing that which is right because it is right, whether anyone else sees you do it or not. And that's the only way you'll ever build character. And if you start taking shortcuts when other people are not looking, you're not going to build character. For one day, the test will come, and the whole world will see that the character was not there. Now, please keep us in prayer tomorrow. They'll do Sandra's surgery at 10 o'clock in the morning. And we found out, or I did, that, and Miss Nancy, you know more about this than I do. I didn't know they had told her originally that she needed to be off the chemo for 4 weeks before they did the surgery, because the anesthesia could counteract with the chemo and produce a toxic situation. So I don't know. She's only been off the chemo a week and a half now, so I don't know. You keep her in your prayers. I'm gonna be at the house. I'm not gonna get to go. So it'll be a long day for me. So please pray for me and pray for Sandra. Cindy's going, and her daughter's going with her, because me and Cindy never find that place. Navigant something. It's not the old hospital. It's something else.
Is it Navicent?
Huh?
Is it in Macon?
Yeah.
Navicent?
Yeah, it's Navicent Health.
It's not the old medical center though. It's on Forsyth Road. This place where it's part of the Navigant Health Centers, but it's on Forsyth Road. So you keep her in your prayers. Any word now before we go?
Hey, Dr. Lee, would it be all right if we all come up there with you and circle around and let's pray?
Yeah, that's fine.